Hey, Brood Mamas, welcome back to Behind Her Coffee Stories of Motherhood. And if you're new here, Brood Mamas is what we call this little community of mothers who gather here each week. I'm your host, the unknown mom, just a mom with a cup of coffee and a story to tell. This is where we talk about the real parts of motherhood, the overstimulated parts, the messy middles, the moments that don't photograph well, and the decisions that might look confusing from the outside, but feel completely right in your heart. This is a space where we say the quiet things out loud. So if these stories resonate with you, make sure you follow the podcast on whatever app you're listening on. Just tap the follow button so you don't miss what's next. And today's story is called Renata's Story. But before we get into that story, here's what we're getting into today. We've got a toddler bed update, another one, and a little bit of toddler mom life, a hot mess confession, a teacher tip you can try this week, and then we're going to talk about the parts of motherhood no one really prepares you for. The quiet moments when you realize you've been caring more than anyone can see. The weight of holding everything together, and the strange feeling of loving your life deeply while still wondering where you went. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and let's begin.
Watching them grow up too fast. These tiny moments always last. Little sleepy sighs and sleepy smiles, making all these early mornings worthwhile. Behind her coffee, stories of motherhood.
It's time for
Toddler time.
All right, so let me give you my toddler bed update. The other day, we've had daylight savings, so, sleep was kind of a little bit disrupted. And one morning, the door to our toddler's room, they share a room. So it opens, the older one opens it, and I hear two little feet or two kids set to feet running down the hallway going, "Hi, Mom." And it is 4:20 in the morning. So I get up, I jump up, and I go, okay, let's go back to bed. So I take them back to bed, and I'm thinking, we're going to go back to sleep because it is way too early. So of course I'm telling them it's bedtime. We're supposed to be sleeping. I do the color coding where one color for their nightlight shows, it's sleeping time, and another color shows, all right, we're going to get up and we're going to, if you want to come out, play and all that kind of stuff. That way, if they're waking up in the middle of the night, the color is kind of telling them either let's get up, let's start our day, or it's telling them, no, it's time to keep sleeping. Because sometimes you get where they wake up like they did at 4:20 and they think, oh, it is time to start the day, when it's not. It really isn't. So of course, we get back to their room. I try to lay down, and oh my goodness, these little girls were running in circles, just running in circles because they thought it's time to wake up, right? And the energy these two children had, I wish I had their type of energy. I'm going to be completely honest. They never went back to sleep. I kept explaining. We're sleeping. Nope. That whole day, all three of us were cranky because all three of us were tired. And we had a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day. They got their nap on the way to the doctor's appointment, which was only about 15-20 minutes away. So of course they didn't have a long enough nap. We do the doctor's appointment. We get in the car to drive back home. No sleep. And I swear to you, in my head, I was like, I remember when I used to sleep in, and I remember when I used to be able to take a nap. And I was not a nap person. Now I wish I can go back and tell myself, take all the naps you can get because you're not going to be able to later on. But we haven't had that since. I think once again, I think my youngest is teething and then she woke up the other one. And I just had to kind of remind my kids of the rules of, okay, remember this light is sleeping time light and this light is get up time light. They do actually really, really good. Don't get me wrong. If they're crying, if something's wrong, we're straight away right over there. But if it's a normal day, go back to bed. It's time to go back to bed. Everyone is happier when everyone sleeps. And the next day, they ended up sleeping in because they were so tired and they didn't get enough sleep. The following day, they slept in, and I swear we were all the happiest. So chipper. I was chipper. I haven't been, yay, let's do everything, in such a long time. We had such a great morning, but let's talk about the crankiness. Being a toddler mom, I've said it before, I said in the last episode, toddlers don't know what they want. They don't. We had a meltdown over cold water that was asked for. So we go, I give them water bottles to drink throughout the day because, hydration, right? My oldest is like, Mommy, I want cold water. Make sure it's cold water. Cool. So I get some cold water from the fridge, put it in her cup, and she's like, that's not cold water. And I said, yes, it is cold water. Feel it. And she said, no, that's not cold water. And then we proceed to, well, not we, she proceeds to run off crying because I just ruined her day and she did not want to drink the cold water she asked for. She eventually did because she got thirsty, and I'm not going to make another cup and waste water. So you get what you get. The phrase, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Well, you threw the fit, you're still going to get it, right? I was just like, wow, I was trying to do the months. I was going to say 1.5-year-old. She's about 2 months older than that. And tell me why. I was just trying to do the math in my head, but I was so tired. We'll figure it out. Like I said, she's 2 months older than a year and a half. So you're 20 months. Today, I was helping her put on, she's wanting to put on her own clothes by herself. So I was helping her put on her shirt. And she said, no, I do it. We're back to the I do it. So she proceeds to put on the shirt, but it's kind of turned backwards. And so I'm trying to turn it, and she's like, no. So she takes it off. And I'm like, okay, let's put on her shirt. So she goes to put it on. I try to fix it. She takes it off because I touched it. And she said, no, I do it. We went back and forth for at least 3 minutes until I told myself, give it up, relax, let her do it. If the shirt is backwards when we leave the house, it's backwards. It is what it is. She's going to be okay. She didn't let me do her hair. She walked out with some crazy hair. And I'm like, you know what? I can't win every battle, and I'm going to go insane trying to. So if you want to go out with a shirt that's backwards and messy hair, go ahead and do it. We have places to be. We have things to do. And I'm not going to argue with a toddler. So there you go. Toddler bed update and, toddler mom life. All right. It's time for...
Huh, Miss Mom?
Okay. So in the middle of the waking up at 4:20, and I told you guys I was thinking about how much sleep I got before having kids. I had my daughter right before I turned 31. And so up until then, we were doing we would sleep in until 11 o'clock on the weekends. And then we'd be like, where'd our day go? Oh my gosh, we just don't have enough time. Girl, if I could go back, I would tell myself, you have more than enough time. Because trust me, you're not going to have it after you have kids. But then I started to think about, okay, there's the lack of sleep. There's the always having to kind of put your kids' needs before yours. There's the just all the things that come with being a parent. And I just so happened to run into a video that was talking about mothers that regret becoming a mom. And you know what made me sad is the fact that, in my opinion, I feel like that regret would be a lot less if we had a community, if we had somewhere to speak, if we had people to go to, if we weren't judged for everything that we do, we say, we act, and also if we weren't going against each other. Because I feel like a lot of mothers are feeling this way because who's there to talk to? And then I watched another video of a woman who was singing a song on American Idol. She was talking about postpartum and this such a beautiful song. If I find it, I will hopefully link it in the show notes. But it talked about how she kind of pulled herself by her bootstraps and she remembered this is for her kids. That really tugged on my heart because as much as I had so much freedom, as much as I had so much time, as much as I had just to do for myself, I wouldn't go back to that. I would trade all of that for what I have now. I love what I have now. And no matter what, when I pick up my daughter, my youngest, she pats my back. It's when my oldest holds my cheeks and tells me she loves me. I would do anything for these two children. I love them so much. And then the line that got me crying, I mean, full on crying this morning in that song was, "There'll come a day when I'm drinking my cup of joe or coffee, and I'll be waiting for someone to come." And I was just like, because, your kids are going to leave and you're going to have a spotless house. You're going to have all the time. You're going to have all the sleep. You're going to have all of it back again. But your babies are gone. They're out into the world. And it's like, my babies. I think the misconception is that when you become a mom, it's all encompassing. And we forget that all encompassing should actually include us. It should include us. I've noticed that I haven't been taking care of my hands and putting on lotion, haven't been taking care of much of my lips and been getting chapped. Small things like that. I'm not taking care of myself. And I'm forgetting who I am. And so by actually being cognizant of, let me put on some lip gloss or chapstick, let me put on some lotion, those little things are still taking care of me. And remembering I still need to take care of myself and remember I'm included in that all encompassing of like motherhood. Motherhood includes the mom, right? Not just the kids, it's the mom. And we forget about mom. And so I was really touched by all of that. And I really hope that this space kind of helps. If not, I'm not trying to reach a million moms. I just want to reach at least one. Just like a teacher, my main focus, yes, was the class. But if I could reach one kid, that's powerful. That's powerful. So yeah, that's my hot mess mom confession this week. Okay, so here is your teacher tip for the week. Playing cards. So if you want your kid really understanding numbers and having that number sense, work with playing cards. My kids used to play, it's not slapjack. It's kind of like that where one person puts the card down and the other person puts the card down. But you take the cards if you have the bigger number. And my students loved this. But what they were actually working on was recognizing the number, knowing the amount, and being able to compare which one is greater and which one is less than. And all three things, if you should be able to know it, you should be able to do it quickly. And they got so much quicker. In the beginning, it was a little bit of a challenge. And I'm talking about 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. And by the end of it, they were going quicker. And as you are practicing that with maybe just knowing, then the next one would be for a little bit older kid adding. So the two kids one puts down a card, the other one puts down a card. They have to add it in their head. And whoever says the answer first correctly gets the group of cards. Then for older kids, then you go into multiplication. You can multiply the two cards. Whoever gets it correctly gets it. Or division. Or let's say they put 2 cards down and now you have 4 numbers to work with. So those are ways that you can use just playing cards as a way to really teach your kids math skills. And I do highly suggest doing that because some of these kids, they don't have that fluency with those numbers. Let me give you one better. Instead of just playing the card, you and your kid, if you have a younger kid than kinder, place the card down and ask them, what number is that? And then maybe you can do one-to-one counting on the card. So now you're placing it down for them so they know how to place it down. And then they can say the number, say the amount. Then you go to 2 people. Now you're playing the game with them. And then the different steps on how to play. So greater than, less than, addition, multiplication, division, so on and so forth. And if it doesn't divide evenly when you have an older kid, do the decimal. Break out the calculator if you need to do the decimal. Having them practice those skills really, really helps. Trust me. Before we get into today's story, I want to introduce a new segment called Brood Mama Stories. These will be stories from the Brood Mamas Patreon community, moments, reflections, experiences from mothers in this space. If you'd like to share your story, you can head on over to Patreon, become a Brood Mama, and submit it there. Once we start getting submissions, I'll begin sharing them on the podcast. All right, let's get into today's story. This week's story comes from a mother who chose the name Renata. She's a mom of 3, 2 toddlers, and a TKer. And when she sent me her story, one sentence immediately stood out. She wrote, "I feel like I've lost myself." And I think a lot of mothers quietly know exactly what that sentence feels like. Because from the outside, Renata's life probably looks like what many people would call super mom life. Kids who are loved, a house filled with laughter, dinner on the table, everyone taken care of. But sometimes the hardest parts of motherhood aren't the loud moments. They're the quiet ones. The moments where you slowly realize that somewhere between caring for someone else, you stopped recognizing the person you were before. This is Renata's story.
Mommy. Ah, mommy.
I feel like I've lost myself. If someone asked me who I am outside of being a mom, I honestly don't know. I couldn't answer that. My kids are my whole world. A normal day for me starts early. I wake up, get ready, and pack my lunch along with my TKer's lunch. Then I start breakfast. The kids wake up. After breakfast, they get dressed, and we head to my in-laws' house. I drop the kids off there. My mother-in-law takes my TKer to school, and I go to work. After work, I pick up the kids, and we head home. We have dinner, watch a movie together, and then it's bedtime. If someone who loves me described me, they would probably say I'm super mom. They would say I'm doing the job of 3 people, but still always present in my kids' lives. My house is warm, full of laughter, and my kids are never hungry. But even with all of that, motherhood has felt overwhelming. A lot of how I approach motherhood comes from how I grew up. My mom was a single mom, and I think that shaped me more than I realized. I learned early on that I needed to handle things myself. I don't need help, or maybe I won't get help. So I'll just do it. I've carried that mindset into motherhood. My husband travels a lot for work, which means most of the time it's just me at home with our 3 kids. Even though I do have an amazing village behind me, I still feel like I need to carry everything on my own. But I'm learning that when my husband is home, I need to let him help, even if his help looks different from how I would do things. I remember the moment I became a mom. We waited until birth to find out the gender. And when they said, "It's a boy," I felt this overwhelming excitement and relief. I couldn't believe that my husband and I had created this entire person, a whole human being from nothing. Motherhood since then has felt like a roller coaster. I didn't realize how quickly I would go from one child to three, and I didn't expect how much love would grow with each of them. Watching their personalities develop is incredible. It thrills me to see who they are becoming, but it also challenges me in ways I didn't expect. The hardest transition for me was going from one child to two. My second child's personality is completely different from my first, and I wasn't prepared for that. But something else happened during that time that made everything even harder. 8 days after I had my baby, my grandmother took her last breaths, and I fell into a deep depression on top of being postpartum. I could barely take care of myself or the house. For months, all I did was hold my children and cry. Even now, the grief is still there, and sometimes the depression tries to creep back in. But I have to stay mentally strong because my husband travels for work a lot, which means most of the time it's just me at home with the kids. One thing I didn't expect motherhood to do was force me to look inward. I realized I needed to start healing my inner child. I didn't even realize that was something I needed to work on. But as I've started working through that, I've softened. I've been able to enjoy my kids' childhood more. They're just kids. They shouldn't have to grow up too fast. And realizing that has helped me slow down and appreciate the moment way more. If I could sit with my younger self before becoming a mother, I would tell her something important. I would tell her to work on healing from past trauma before becoming a mom, because I think it would help lighten the mental load and the feeling of being overwhelmed. Before I close out today, I want to say something to the mother who feels like she's lost pieces of herself along the way, to Renata. I also want to speak to the mother who sometimes wonders where she went after becoming a mom. The one who keeps everything moving, the lunches packed, the kids dressed, the house warm, the laughter still echoing inside your walls. From the outside, it might look like you have it all together. People might even say, wow, she's doing it all. But what they don't see are the quiet moments, the ones that happen when the house finally gets still, when the kids are asleep and the noise fades just enough for a thought to slip in. I don't even know who I am anymore. Somewhere between the diapers, the dishes, the school drop-offs, the sleepless nights, pieces of you slowly slipped into the background. Not because you didn't matter, but because everyone else needed you first. Motherhood has a way of asking for everything. Your time, your energy, your patience, your heart, and sometimes you give so much of yourself away that one day you realize you're not quite sure where the woman you used to be went. But losing yourself inside motherhood does not mean you're gone. It means you loved deeply. It means you showed up again and again for the little people who needed you the most. And the woman you were before motherhood, she's still there, under the routine, under the responsibilities, under the strength. Everyone sees. She's just been waiting for you to remember her. Maybe motherhood isn't just about raising children. Maybe part of it is slowly finding your way back to yourself, softening where life hardens you, healing the parts of you that never had the chance before, and remembering that you are allowed to exist as more than just the person who holds everything together. Your children don't need a mother who disappears inside motherhood. They need a mother who remembers that she is still a person too. And little by little, you will find your way back. This story is so touching. This story has made me realize that we are all feeling the same. We are all kind of hiding and trying to do it all ourselves. And Renata, we hear you. We are listening. We love you. And we know this is hard. And no one's going to take away how hard life is probably feeling right now. but you have a community here that will support you, that will be here for you, that will not judge. And I'm so happy you have a village that can help lighten the load if you need it. That is something that is so great and so powerful. But just know you are heard. And this is with love from a mother who is still finding pieces of herself too. Because sometimes motherhood isn't about losing who you are. Sometimes it's about slowly finding your way back to her. If today's episode resonated with you and you want to help this space grow, here's how you can. Make sure you're following the podcast wherever you listen. If you'd like to support the show and go a little deeper, you can become a Brood Mama on Patreon. That's where I share the video version of the episode, behind the scenes moments, and even the occasional car ride chats. If you enjoy the podcast, leaving a rating or a comment also helps more mothers find this space. You can listen to the show on Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Thank you for being here. And to my brood mamas, thank you for helping this space grow. Thanks for listening to Behind Her Coffee, Stories of Motherhood, where the stories are honest. The coffee, is necessary. And no mother has to carry it all alone.
Behind her coffee, stories of motherhood.
A Coffee with Carmen production.